On Blues Radio International, Jesse and Audrey continuing our viral, antiviral world tour, and this time we land in beautiful Fort Myers, Florida,
That's right.
with our friend Frank Bang. Hey,
Pleasure.
Frank.
Good to see you, Jess. Good to see you, Audrey. Good to
Hi.
see. Good to see anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you're seeing a lot of people. Everyone around the world is waiting to hear you play, and we want to talk and catch up a bit. What are you going to lead off with?
I've been looking at some of the older stuff that I first got turned on to when I started working at Buddy Guy's Club in the '90s, and I've been getting extremely nostalgic with it. I think for a lot of reasons that maybe we'll talk about later. But the first time I ever worked a door shift there, they had this woman from Austin, Texas, via Canada, playing the 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock set. And I still remember the first song I ever heard her do was Miss Sue Foley. And she did this song called I've Gone Blind. So I've been having some fun with that, playing blues by myself. I'm going to play it for you right now. I've gone blind, baby. I can't find my way. Said I gone blind, baby. I can't find my way. You took all my loving, yes you did, girl. And then you threw it all away. Got me walking around in circles, baby. 'Cause I ain't got no home. Said you got me walking around in circles, baby. I ain't got no home, no. And I ain't no youngster, no, no, no. And now I'm walking around in this world all alone. Said I gone blind, baby. I can't find my way. Said I gone blind, baby. Can't find my way, no. You took all my loving, yes you did, baby. And you threw it all away. So you took all my loving, yes you did, baby. Then you went and threw it all away.
Yeah. Okay.
Really nice.
Sorry. I'm done being silly.
I hope not.
Did y'all hear that all right?
Yeah, it sounded great. And that was a great rendition. Thank you for playing that for us.
Very welcome.
Hopefully it made you feel good too.
Yes. I'm even working up a little sweat here in the house. Turned off the air. I think turning
Yeah.
up and make any noise helped a little too.
It's amazing what an air conditioner can do for audio.
Yes. And it's essential down here in the state of Florida, that's for sure.
Well, we'll have you working up a sweat by the time we're done. That's for sure.
Down with that. It's been too long.
So, Frank, you have an interesting history with the blues scene. And, so something that maybe a lot of people don't know about you. And would you like to give us a rundown of your history and how you got started playing blues?
Absolutely. And you're 100% correct. Like, even I take this for granted because, like, at the Blues Bender this last fall, I ran into Tab Benoit, and we were talking about the old days when I used to manage legends, and he turned to me and goes, "Hey, what are you doing here? Are you just enjoying some shows?" And I go, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, Frank Bang." And I introduced myself. He goes, "Wait a second, you're the guy here on Sirius all these years?" So yeah, you're right. I used to work for the Hard Rock Cafe Corporation as a kitchen manager when I was really young. I started with them when I was 20. And by the time I was 21, they sent me to San Diego and then Houston, opened up Vegas, did a little time in San Francisco when they had the earthquake. It was just one of those, I was young, I had no responsibilities, and I was good at my job. So like they would send me, and, being young, I did like that job, And when I was in San Diego, in La Jolla, we had Stevie Ray Vaughn. When the In Step record came out, he came to the club. And I used to take the guitars off the wall when no one was looking at the Hard Rock. I would bring like Pete Townsend's Les Paul into the kitchen and play while the dishwashers were cleaning up or things like that. So when Stevie Ray was in my general manager's office, who was also originally from Chicago, he said, "Hey, ask Stevie Ray if he wants one of the guitars off the wall to play while he's waiting to do this autograph session." And, of course he wanted this Hendrix one that was encased that, I couldn't get to that, but then he kind of caught on to something that I was completely unaware of, which was the Chicago accent. Everybody in San Diego, La Jolla, kind of had like a surfer dude accent, and I didn't. So he just said real quickly, "That's not a California accent. Where are you from?" And I said I was from Chicago, and that I had been growing up listening to his music there in Chicago and still listen to his music all the time. And then, like, he cut me off in the sentence. It was like, "You're from Chicago? Well, then you should listen to Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, James Cotton." He basically ran down all these guys who were on Alligator Records that weren't even from Chicago, like Johnny Winter, Albert Collins, E.C. Reed. And I was okay. And like, literally, I went to the show that night. It was him and Robert Cray. Robert Cray was good, but Stevie Ray just blew him out of the water. It was night and day what was going on with Stevie Ray when he was sober during the In Step tour. And when I got done with work that night, like that weekend, I had some extra money. I went to the record store. I bought a cassette of the best of Chicago blues. And I had some, Chicago blues in my catalog, but only had like a couple cassettes. And then when I went back to Chicago, my parents were, supportive, and I moved back out to their house in McHenry, which is about 60 miles from Chicago. And I had all these restaurant corporations asking me to take a job. I also worked at the stock exchange when I was like 15 to 18. So I thought about going back to that. So I was kind of moonlighting between both, trying to figure out what to do. And I went by Buddy Guy's Legends because Stevie Ray had said, "Go check out Buddy Guy's." And I went on a Friday night. This was before Damn Right I Got the Blues came out. I went on like a Friday night at Thanksgiving after being back home in Chicago, maybe like a month from Texas. And I was depressed and, gave up my job, had no money, all that stuff, living at my parents' house, And I saw a Buddy Guy show for like the first time for the whole length. Like I seen him once before when I was at the Hard Rock sitting with a bunch of guys there at the Limelight, but like I got to watch the whole show. And I also was in the club watching what was going on all night, and I was just like, this place is raw. Like they were selling bottles of fifths of whiskey and takeout beer out of the merchandise area. They didn't have anything except one T-shirt of Buddy Guy, and coming from the Hard Rock where to put a logo on a shower curtain, I just saw this place has potential. And then I saw like it's not like the Hard Rock. There's no corporate managers walking around. You couldn't tell from how someone was dressed that they were a manager or nothing like that. And I went back into the city a couple days later for some interviews, and I got offered some jobs I just didn't want. And then I went over to Buddy Guy's Legends and hung out. Like literally, they used to have an adult bookstore next to Buddy Guy's Legends. So I'm standing out there in front of a place. The door's locked. It says it's going to open at 4:00, and it's like 10 to 4, and this white guy comes around the corner, he walks past me, he walks into the adult bookstore, he comes out with a bunch of mail, It was that where Legends was getting their mail for the first couple of years. And he comes to unlock the door. I'm like, you work here? He goes, yeah, I work here. I'm the manager here. And so I was like, oh, cool. I gave him a resume. And as soon as he looked at it, he goes, you're way too overqualified for this place. And I said, yeah, I know. I just, after being in the corporate life and growing up at the stock exchange, I'm just trying to find another path. And I don't know what that is yet, but maybe there's something that's telling me maybe I should give this place a shot. And he's like, well, I got a door position for you. And I was like, nah, I ain't want no door position. I came here for a real job. And he said, well, hey, maybe I can get you in a door position that'll lead to something. And then, of course, like a month later, Buddy, because back then, just to keep the place alive, a lot of people don't know this, Buddy would play at least once a weekend, like a Friday, Saturday, and even a Sunday show, just so they could make the rent the first year, And so he called me in for their December weekend, and I got to work that show. And I remember I came home back to McHenry. My parents had lots of questions. Like, my mom was like, so did you get that job with Let Us Entertain You? And I was like, I don't want to take it. She's like, really? Why not? I got to wear this goofy, like, conductor's hat. And I don't think I want to take that job. And she's like, what's it pay? And I told her what it paid. And you could see, like, she wanted to say something, but she bit her lip. And she's like, so what do you got going on? Like, well, there's this blues club that offered me a door job. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that's 4 or 5 nights a week. And I was like, no, it's one night a week. She's like, so what's it going to pay? I'm like, $60 cash. And she kind of bit her tongue again. But, my mom is also a Chicago woman, born and raised by a Chicago cop, a lifer. So she knows how to speak to you after she gives you all the opportunities to work your way out of something, And she's like, so you're going to turn down the $30-something thousand a year job to work a door job one night a week, 60 miles in each direction for $60. And I said, yeah, let's just see what happens. And, of course, the night they gave me was Magic Slim and the Teardrops. So, like, by the end of the first set of Magic Slim and the Teardrops, back when they had John Primer and Slim and his brother Nick, and Jerry Porter was the drummer then, who I eventually played with in Buddy Guy's band, like, I was hooked, and I was like, they paid me at the end of the night. I drove home and just kept hounding them for more shifts, and my parents thought I was nuts. I remember my dad, after the first one, was sitting there we'd get up in the morning and watch football, and, like, the Mike Ditka show was on. He's like, hey, man, you been up all this time? Because I had been. Like, I got home from Chicago like 3 in the morning on, like, a Saturday night of working a Buddy show. And, after that drive, I was all wound up. So by 8:30, 9 in the morning, when he comes downstairs, I think I'd just fallen asleep for like an hour on the couch. He's like, you up all night? What are you on, drugs? And I said, no, man, I think I'm on Buddy Guy. And I just kind of sat around with my guitar in my hands, kind of watching TV. And then, like, in the middle of it, before the game started, my dad said, can I swear here? Because I don't want to get in trouble for
Go for it.
Exact language. So my dad goes, can you make any money doing that? I didn't know what he said. I said, make any money doing what? And he goes, play guitar. And my exact answer was, fuck if I know. And I just kept playing. He never said anything for a couple more minutes. And then he kind of turned to me during the commercial. He goes, if you can make any money at that, you should do that. Because I liked my job as a police officer. I liked my job as a car sales manager. But the only job I ever loved was when I was young, and I used to drive the truck for the Sun-Times. And I'd drive at 5 in the morning, delivering those papers in downtown Chicago, and it was all vacant. And I loved that job. And if you could find something you love, you should do it. And I didn't, again, like, I started then at Legends first as a door guy, then I took over the merchandise stand, then I was the head door guy, then I was the night manager, then when Buddy bought the place outright, he cleaned house. And he gave a couple young guys, a young guy that had been working in his old manager's office, the general manager position. He gave me the assistant general manager position. And then I was there 5-6 nights a week on salary, doing everything. I mean, I painted the place. I cooked breakfast with Sam Guy for brunch for Blues Fest because I was a cook. I mean, I did everything there. And I was on salary too. So, like, If Buddy needed a guitar tech for something like a studio session, I did the Slippin' In session. 4 of my sister-in-laws from my marriage are background singers on Slippin' In, because we just brought, when Eddie Kramer was trying to, like, he had this version going, and we kind of all turned to him and we're like, have you ever seen Buddy do this song live? It's a lot more energy than what we're doing in the studio right now. Like, even Greg Arzab was his bass player, Scott Holt was his guitar player back then. We all said the same thing to Eddie Kramer. And then we brought him to a Buddy Guy show a week later, and he's like, yeah, we got to do that version. How do we get that crowd? So we brought a bunch of the staff there to CRC and filmed up like bleachers full of our staff, gave them all beers, let them get loose, and then just recorded like 3 or 4 times them doing the someone else is slipping in part, and the brilliance of Eddie Kramer, turned that into a Grammy-winning record and a big cut off of that. So there was always something associated with the music, even when I didn't think music was a job for me. Like, I never thought playing guitar with Buddy Guy was, yeah, you dream about some stuff like that, but I never had a practical thought about that in my life, or even being a professional guitar player. Because I was just like, hey, I like managing the club. At some point, they couldn't pay me anymore, and I was making as much as the general manager. And I had my brother working as my head door guy, so everything was nice. Everybody was getting their money. Buddy was happy, and I just couldn't get any more money out of him. So after January shows, I think in '96, I kind of surprised everybody. I said, hey, I'm going to give my notice, and started playing music full time, because I was turning down all these people that were like, hey, what are you doing Tuesday? And I'm like, I'm here. What do you mean, what am I doing Tuesday? And then I started asking, why'd you ask what I was doing Tuesday? I was going to hire you to play guitar in my band over at the Harlem Ave or something like that. So at some point, it kind of got to be like, hey, you got to make a choice here. And I decided to give up working at Legends and start over, and started at the bottom. I mean, yeah, I did have some nice friends from my years of working at Legends that would let me sit in. And, like even that story about Tad that I mentioned, when I was paying him one night at the end of the night, he had this old bus. And after we paid him, we took a bottle of cognac that Buddy would drink onto the bus, and we listened to the Stone Crazy record, and we geeked out like little kids, And I remember him even saying to me, man, I wish I could record with Killer Allison and Greg Arzab. And I was like, hold on, let me get my phone book. Here's Killer's number. Here's Greg Arzab's number, And he eventually called them to do some Buddy Guy tunes for one of his records because of that. There was just always something going on in that job that kind of prepared me in like almost going to a blues university.
Wow. And what year was that you were at the Hard Rock and you were talking to SRV and he said, you should listen to this stuff? Like what year was that?
I turned 21 in 88, so it was 89. And then I moved back to Chicago like early 90, like end of 90. So, yeah, it was like 1989 when I met him in La Jolla, and he kind of gave me that, you should start listening to Chicago. Like, he was like, you should stop listening to me. You should start listening to, and I was like, well, that ain't going to happen. But, that's a really good lesson that I think a lot of the youth kind of miss, is that, if you're into Stevie Ray Vaughn, why don't you figure out the guys he was into? And I bet you'll get closer to the root. And then if you go a little further back from them, I bet you get the root, And I think that's a lesson that's lost on a lot of people. I mean, I talk to the guys in Buddy Guy's band pretty often that I used to play with. And even with all I knew about, the history of Buddy, and I'm a pretty good historian of his career and stuff like that because I'm a huge fan. But even I had to have pointed out by musicians in his band that, we're the last of a breed. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, well, we played with the man who played with Muddy Waters. He played with the tree, and he's a fruit of the tree. And we're actual guys who played with the real fruit of the tree. And I was, I took that for granted. I never thought of it that way because I've just known him so long, and we've been friends, and he's still nice to me. And, I never thought of it that way, but there's truth in it.
Well, I see you're holding that beautiful National guitar.
Yes.
And when you think about playing on stage with Buddy Guy, what inspires you when you hold that? What would you play if Buddy was sitting here with me? What would you play for him?
Oh, that's easy. Down here where the river meets the sea, and in the sticky heat I can feel you open up to me, yeah. Love comes out of nowhere, baby, just like a hurricane, and it feels like rain. Yes, it feels like rain. Lying here underneath the stars, right next to you, baby. And I wonder who you are. How do you do, baby? How do you do, yes? Clouds come out of nowhere, baby, and the wind cries your name. Feels like rain. Yes, it feels like rain. Ain't never gonna catch that bridge tonight, baby. Across Lake Pontchartrain, and it feels like rain. Yes, it feels like rain. So button down the hatches, baby, and wear your heart on your sleeve. Looks like we're in for stormy weather, baby. There ain't no cause to leave. Just lie here in my arms, baby. Let me wash away your pain. Yes, it feels like rain. Yes, it feels like rain. Oh, baby, can you feel it? Oh, yeah, girl. See, it feels like rain.
That's beautiful, Frank.
Thank you. But you can't go wrong with John Hyatt and Buddy Guy.
No, my goodness, no. And, it's during this, global situation that we're all in. One of the things that we've noticed amongst most of the people we've talked to is that songs have, started to take on new meanings. And things that we've either written or used to play or used to listen to now have sort of, transformed into these other messages. And I'm curious if you've been revisiting or playing or listening to anything that has sort of done that for you.
Yeah. First, I think I was reading about around the beginning of the year, right after Christmas, I was reading Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, you know, and a lot of times there's books that escape me for a period of my life, and then there'll be something from that book that I'll be like, wow, I can't believe I've been alive this long and had a certain philosophy and never read this book before. So the first thing, he was not a concentration camp survivor, but also, he was big into Sigmund Freud, and he was a deep guy. And he started talking about, finding happiness in the most atrocious places, just so he could not let this get to him, And there was a part of me for the first couple of weeks of this that was not following that. I was using my medical marijuana card way too much, but I was listening to like a lot of older music that had first inspired me. Like I listen all the time to Showdown, which is a fantastic record with, Albert Collins, Johnny Copeland, and Robert Cray. But it started taking on a new meaning because it's something I've been listening to since I was 20, and now I'm 52, and like 32 years later, that vibe of it meant more to me. And then I started digging a little more, and I'm a huge jazz lover. I listen to jazz. I even studied jazz with a guy over there in Fort Lauderdale named Mark Rossi. It's just, I have a real respect for it. And also I grew up with jazz guys that were usually hiding their degree while they were playing in blues bands when we were young white guys in Chicago. So, like some Miles and some stuff like that I've been listening to my whole life. And there was something about some of that music of Coltrane's Love Supreme, of Miles, especially the quintet stuff, which was done more in the early 60s to the late 60s. There's just something about that kind of brought home a whole, I don't know, like this is a unique, like I understand that the situation that we're in, and it's almost like a unique time for a rebirth in some ways. And I kind of think that music kind of got me thinking about that again, it really did. Like even, like they took in Florida here, I had it pretty good. I was working a minimum 3 days a week. I had residencies scattered on both coasts so that I could work just Tuesday and Wednesday and pay my bills. I had doubles on Wednesday, one at the beach bar in Fort Myers Beach, another at the Bellroom here in Wednesday night. And then Tuesdays I'd go over to Kelly's and do a solo acoustic thing. And just those 3 shows in 2 days was enough like to pay my bills and make sure I was okay. So anything after that was like gravy. And then somewhere around March 13th, that all got stopped because of the whole shutting down of the bars thing here. And I felt like I was just kind of like finding my stride here in Florida. And the last few winters I went on the road, and hit places in the Midwest or up and down the East Coast or things like that. Cause, I don't have a booking agency per se. So it's just easier for me to book a month here where I go to places I've played in the past and come back home. So I took a little different approach this year. Did some investigation last year as to how I could stay home, and then thinking everything was great and I was all happy and all my bills were paid and I'm making money, I'm saving money, and boom, it's all gone just like that. So it kind of gave me just thinking about how do you reinvent yourself in the times that we're in, with still being who you are, but how do you reinvent yourself? And it's been interesting, the one thing that I did that I think was probably smart, I've had my own label since I started putting out records. And it's not because I wanted to have my own label. It's just because I would get certain deals from labels that I'm not going to mention and embarrass that were just bad deals. So, I thought sometimes maybe I was doing a disservice to myself in my career by doing that, because I'm not with a booking agency because of that. Or like even when the Cook County King thing came out, I remember me and you just had a quick conversation about, are you going to submit this for the BMAs? It was nice for you to bring that up to me. A few other people did too. But as an independent who's living and paying for 4 guys on the road off CD sales at major festivals, how can I just give away 150 to 200 CDs for them to listen to it back then? Like, it didn't financially make any sense to me. If I was with a label, I would have had them do that. But when it's coming out of your own pocket, and that's your bread and butter to pay these 60-year-old guys that, you know, could travel and stay in a nice hotel and play blues for you. It was an essential. And then this happened. And, you know, honestly, like if I didn't stick to my guns, I would have already gone into poverty over this, because at least my checks that came once a month, because I didn't take those terrible deals, you know, from my Sirius XM play were enough to get by. You know, so I kind of even put that in perspective. Like, instead of chasing something, maybe I've kind of had something here all along. Maybe I should just stick to my guns. And I talked to you, maybe Jesse, about a year ago about working out in California and working with a fantastic producer, Ross Hogarth, who I'm really love that we have a relationship and we're friends now. But, you know, like, I got to wait for him to do Fleetwood Mac's record. That could take a year. I don't really have that kind of time. And then this happened. It kind of made me think, man, maybe you should just keep doing what you're doing, because it seems like it worked for you.
I think there's a lot of wisdom to that, Frank, and a lot of people listening who thought, gee, I never got to get a deal with a label. I'm not sure what deals with labels right now are worth to musicians at the moment, because you're not dealing with the normal booking situation or any of that. And having control over your own destiny and finances is a thing that probably makes you more impervious to some of the downturns that other people will experience.
It actually has. And you know what's interesting is, like, I was in a band before I joined Buddy Guy's band. I was in a band that was doing pretty well. It was called The Buzz. We would, you know, open for Otis Rush on Friday night and then travel to Iowa City and play with the Flaming Lips on Saturday night. We just did not care who we were with. We were always just about, let's show up and rock the house. And we did that. And we traveled a lot for young guys who had no bookings. I mean, we played Texas several times every year, and really small places like West Texas and Odessa, El Paso, Alpine, California. We did all that on our own. And right before me and Jason Moynihan was a sax player in that band as well as Buddy Guy's band, right before we got offered that job, we were getting ready to do a deal with Capricorn Records, because they had saw the band and liked it, and we had Warren Haynes picked out as the producer. So in 99, the end of 99, we've negotiated to get this record done, and then this Buddy Guy job offer comes at the end of 99, and I called Warren Haynes, and he said, you have to take this job with Buddy Guy, because it'll allow you to come full circle, and we'll always be able to make a record together at some point. And then, you know, like, I didn't look back. I had a great time in Buddy Guy's band. I never had a second thought about that at all. And then about 3 years ago, I had an industrial accident on my last day of a job in Chicago before I moved down here full time. And I crushed this finger and almost lost this finger. And then, like, you know, luckily I had some friends like Albert Castilla down here and RJ Housen down here on the other coast who helped me out when the band came down, so I could just sit there and play rhythm with two fingers and, you know, not cancel a tour so everybody could make money. Because it literally happened my last day of the day job before I was just giving it up and moving here full time. And then after about 3 months and my fingers started healing, I did a show with Marcus King up in Michigan. And Marcus King also worked with Warren Haynes and had his first record come out. And I sat back and I was like, wow, I wonder, it was like the first time I ever had any second thoughts about this. And it was like 20-something years later, you know? And again, Jesse, I think you're 100% right on that, you know, this kind of sticking to my guns thing, it has a bright side that maybe I didn't see. And maybe throughout all this, you know, it's kind of put me in another perspective of, like, you know, like, I feel young and hungry again, like I did when I was 28. You know, like, I got shit to prove. At 52, I still feel, and it has a lot to do with the recording aspect of it and the performance, but also the production and the producing. I want to expand my own label and not just record me, because there's a ton of great Chicago blues guys that aren't getting recorded by anybody. And that's a shame.
And it definitely sounds like the blues found you.
Yes. And don't you think, like, that you could tell, like, I'm sure that happened with you as well. And you too, Jess, where it's like, there's just something about that music. Like, you didn't choose that music. That music chose you.
Yeah, it just found me. And, you know, I come from a background that is immensely different than the blues. But I know now that a lot of the songs that I loved growing up were remakes of old blues songs, and I had no idea. And it's been an interesting journey for me, and it's been an incredible education. And I know as a music lover that I enjoy many different types of music as well as you. And I'm curious if there's anything that you enjoy playing that isn't necessarily blues.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Like, again, when I'm studying with someone like Mark, it's not so much to sit there and play jazz standards, or like I love Cuban music and the chan-chans and stuff like that. It's more so that when this instrument is played, it can sound more like a saxophone or a vocalist, and so that I can understand the modes and the rules of music. Also love Americana. Like working on a version of a Merle Haggard song that I heard an old R&B singer do. I'll do like a verse of it, but like it even got me thinking about, like here's a country western song that I could put like an R&B old school spin on, like. We could call Mrs. Johnson. Drop the kids for a day or two. Catch the early flight to Florida. Just like we used to do. Have room service bring us breakfast. Make love all through the day. We're not back in love by Monday. We can go our separate ways. We're not back in love by Monday. They can't say we didn't try. We should see our love still happening before we let it die.
Aww.
Very cool.
Aww.
I like it, like you, y'all, and again, some hindsight. I've been thinking a lot about this. I was 20 years old and I was working at the Hard Rock, and my kitchen manager came up to me one night and he goes, "Hey man, there's all these rock stars playing across the street at the Limelight tonight. Eric Clapton, Phil Collins, Roger Waters are all going to be there." And what he didn't know is I had gone the night before to the Rosemont Horizon to see the Roger Waters solo band, and Clapton and Phil Collins were in that. So I kind of was like, "Oh, you mean the show?" But I didn't say that. And before I could say anything, he goes, "There's going to be this guy named Buddy Guy there. You need to go see him." Now, I was 20 years old, born and raised in Chicago, could get into any bar because I had fake IDs and I'm a cop kid, so I knew how to get around some things. But I never could get into a blues club. I didn't look the part, I think, was the biggest part of that, no matter what my ID said. And I remember saying, he got so mad. I go, "Who the fuck is Buddy Guy?" And he just stormed off pissed, walked away mad. And he came back, and he was disappointed. He's like, "Nobody else on the staff at the Hard Rock Cafe knows who Buddy Guy is either, so you're coming with me." And we walked in, and all those rock stars were playing. The Limelight was a small club, only held a few hundred. So immediately after seeing him at the Horizon, I was like, wow, this is cool, Clapton. But there was all these guys in the background. I know them all now, and they all mean something in my life. Besides Buddy, George Bays was there, Vince Aguada was there, Jerry Porter was there, Sugar Blue was there. I didn't know any of these guys then, But then Buddy came out, put on this really cool show, and just blew everybody's minds away. And then when I turned 21, like a couple weeks later, we went down to Rush Street like you do, and there'd be all these different clubs and bands. And the reason I wanted to go on Rush Street, because I'd been there a bunch of times before I was 21, the thrill was gone, was to see a blues band. We walk into a blues club, and the guy was playing and then went into the ZZ Top thing, and then he went from that into Missing You by the Rolling Stones. And there was this whole click in my brain of, man, all this music you've been listening to has I didn't know it came from that yet until I started studying it, but it has a connection to the two of these things. And, I've been kind of searching and finding that ever since, trying to find something that I can bring my bluesy vibe to, even if it's not a blues song. And I think that all starts from, being a rock person, and then all of a sudden experiencing the blues like you can when you hit a certain age in life that you just can't before then, It's worked out good so far.
Yeah, definitely. So any new songs you've been working on that you'd like to play for us?
Yeah.
Or any old songs that you've been, revisiting, anything.
I'll play a little of something that I'm working on that I went to the Funky Biscuit when I first started living here. I was there with my girlfriend at the time, and Albert was playing. He had John Ginty on the B3 that night.
Yeah.
And Rochelle
Koba
got up to sing with him as well.
Yeah.
And it was cool. I was sitting in the audience in the back. He got me up to play a little later, but I remember, and again, this is something that I really value, music. It's no joke to me. Every aspect of it. Like, I even analyze it maybe a little too much sometimes. But while we were sitting there, they went into that the beginning of that Etta James song. And my girlfriend, who, didn't really know that I had played with Etta James a bunch of times or anything like that. And it was kind of nice at some point having that anonymity in your own world. Turned, and she just said, "Ooh, sounds like a heartbreak tonight." And I made a mental note of that. And not too long ago, I wrote a song with that in mind, and it came from just watching what was going on, and I may have changed. I'll play a little bit for you here. Lights went low, time to start the show. The singer stepped to the mic, head to toe, she was looking out of sight. She hit that first note with a feeling, and that man forgot about everything then. Sounds like a heartbreak tonight. Hurts so wrong. There's something about that pain feels right. Yes, it sounds like a heartbreak tonight. The saxophone, oh, it struck a tone so very deep, cut straight to the bone. He reached back to hold her hand and saw her leaving with another man. said it sounds like a heartbreak tonight. It hurts so wrong. There's something about that pain feels right. Yes, yes, it sounds like a heartbreak tonight. It hurts so wrong. Yeah, it feels so right. Yeah. I said it sounds like a heartbreak tonight. Something I'm working on.
That's beautiful, Frank.
Thank you.
I've noticed, it's really beautiful to hear what's in progress too, and we appreciate your taking us inside that so we can see it as it develops, and we can't wait to hear these compositions as they become, they come to fruition as you envision them. I saw in our sound check that you have a lap steel there as well. What's going on with that?
Yeah. I brought that out just for y'all. Hold on.
This is a very special moment, ladies and gentlemen.
That National always has a beautiful tone to it. It's like magic.
Yes. Even like it's really easy to say when good things happen, that everything happens for a reason and all that, But, also some of the bad things that happen in life, happen for a reason. And you just don't know it, or maybe you don't, want to get caught up in that so much. But even finding that guitar, the National Steel, it was a buddy of mine that had restored it. I had been using my van to travel with the band all the time, and we had a cage in the van, so the equipment was always behind the cage. And then you couldn't break in because the glass in the van was all caged up, and there was a double lock on the back. It was really a safe way to do this. And like we were hearing some noises from the cage, and I brought the van in, and he had the guitar sitting like I do right now on a stand in his garage. And I was like, what the hell are you doing to me, dude? I'm going through a divorce. I can't buy no guitars. This is nuts. And he was, just sit down and play it, man. I'm going to be working on your car for like an hour. It's okay. So he came in at the end of the hour, and he's like, listen, how do you like the guitar? I go, what do you mean? How do I like the guitar? I love it. And he goes, I have a son. And this is really poignant now because this friend of mine has passed away. And he goes, I have a son. He's the first one in my family, Juan Cruz. He's the first one in my family to go to college. First boy to ever go to college. And he's going to go to college here in the city of Chicago. And, he's getting some loans to get by, but I'm trying what I can do as a father. And, man, I want to get him a computer and some books and make sure he's got some money for school. And, and that's why I ended up buying the guitar. Straight up. I asked him what he wanted for it. He said $2,000. It's a 1938. I gave him $2,000 for it. I took to get it appraised at Chicago Music Exchange the next day, and they offered me $2,000 for it.
Oh.
So I realized he was just trying to move his family along, and that means a lot to me now because I think I've written probably about 100 songs on that, including everything off Double Dare. So it means a lot to have that guitar around. And you could give it to like a very average guitar player and they sound like they're playing a concert at Carnegie Hall because there's just something about that guitar that brings out the player. It really does.
It's a magical instrument.
It really is. I'm working on a song that I'm kind of all over the map with right now because I haven't stirred it in yet because I just have so many thoughts about what that guitar could say being around since 1938. Made in Chicago. National Steel was made in Chicago back in those days. And I found it in Chicago all those years later. So who had that guitar? What stories does that guitar tell?
Oh, I wish we knew.
Yeah, exactly. And when someone like me who can get a little creative, that might be a good thing. Right now, it's kind of like I got to rein this huge story in to make it a song. But I also have this one here today, my lap. It's a Chandler. I changed the pickup in it years ago so that it would rock a little more. This is an instrument I recorded Double Dare, God-Fearing Man, a couple songs off the Double Dare record on. And I love Charlie Musselwhite. I love Ben Harper. And this thing, I kind of be using a Ben Harper tuning for years. Which is just a root 5 tuning for you musicians out there. It's just a lot of root and a couple 5s spread across the board. And I'm going to have a little fun with a song. I just think it's very poignant. You know, my father was a police officer. My grandfather was a police officer. They all served. I didn't want to become a police officer growing up in Chicago. I had a whole bunch of family that wanted me to, and a couple aunts that didn't. You know, they went to their graves still giving me the stink eye because I didn't become a Chicago police officer. That's all right. That's all right. It worked out. Trust me. My dad didn't want me to become a Chicago police officer, just like I don't want my children to become musicians.
Yeah, you told us. Do what you love. Follow your heart.
Exactly. And I just think the song that Ben Harper wrote is really poignant these days, and I'm going to play a little bit. I've been playing it in my live show on and off for a while, especially when I'm playing by myself. Like my father and his father and his father before. Watch the world burn on fire. War after war. Did things I didn't know I could. For a common good tomorrow. I write it down. For tomorrow. I write it down. Give a man 100 years. And he'll walk 100 more. Give him 100 choices. He'll still choose his war. From Salem's poor to Genghis Khan. Tomorrow, I write it down. For tomorrow, I write it down. I was born for battle. I was born to bleed. I was born to help those who have risen up in need. Mama, stop your crying. Sister, dry your eyes. You'll hear my medals ringing from Shreveport to Chi-Town. Tomorrow, I write it down. For tomorrow, I write it down. Come first light, I march battle. Not my own life, but my brother's I must save. When you hear those pipers start drumming, I march proudly to my grave. Tell my loved ones they must carry on. For tomorrow, I write it down. For tomorrow, yes, my rag doll.
Wow, what a moody song.
Yeah, that you know, and again, I think it's the correlation of Charlie Musselwhite's authentic blues mixed in with Ben Harper's musical round table of all the soulful stuff to the bluesy stuff to the rockin' stuff he did. I think that's a really good marriage of in collaboration. I've been waiting for Ben Harper to do a blues record since I got a chance to book him at Legends when his record first came out. We had I had mentioned that 5 to 8 set that Susan Foley did. When his record came out, he was traveling by himself, and Welcome to the Cruel World was out, and XRT was playing it just a little bit, and they called and said, hey, can you give him a gig? And we didn't know what to do with them. So we were like, we'll give him the 5 to 8 slot on a Friday if he wants. And they were going to take it. And then, of course, they got something over by the Metro at the Underground Cafe or the Uncommon Cafe. But I've been a big lover of his music. And to me, even though it's not blues, it's always come from a very bluesy world. And I think he's also one of those guys, too, that sings about stuff that's a little more progressive, you know. He has songs about finding out that his mom likes women. You know, he has songs about the uprisings of the African American community and what it means to be black in a white world. He has songs about falling out of love, or, you know, even some of his pop stuff. It can get really cool in a way. I really appreciate him.
Yeah, we all have our musical heroes. And I'm curious as to what you're going to do with that lap steel next. Because I'm looking at it and I know how good you are on there, and I'd love to hear you play something. I love watching you play.
Well, thank you. You know, it's interesting because, like, for Double Dare, I was sitting around, you know, kind of trying to figure out how to use this as a songwriting tool, you know. And when you get it with a band where everybody can play their parts, you know, it really gives this thing a way to shine. You know, I'm kind of like, even with the Sawzall, you know, like I'm trying to write some stuff these days and then be like, you know, like open G is a really easy key for me to sing in. It's kind of got like a Black Crowes kind of melody palette for me to kind of go around. And, you know, I've been writing a lot of stuff on that Sawzall for that same reason, kind of trying to figure out how to kind of make something ordinary into something a little more special.
That's a cool instrument too.
Oh, I love that thing.
It's like party time. I know when I see that, I know it's party time.
Give me like 5 seconds. I'll grab it.
For you, absolutely.
All right, hold on. Yeah, I've never taken the time or thought of naming this at all. I just kind of was, you know, grateful for the fact that someone made it and sent it to me.
Is that what happened? Somebody gave that to you?
You know, like, you know how I was mentioning to you earlier about the fact that, you know, everything happens for a reason, and sometimes you don't understand it. Even like the bad can really work out to something that'll be good for you. And, you know, I had played with Buddy from the end of '99 till the spring of 2004, and then, you know, kind of had to figure some stuff out on my own. And one thing I did, you know, like in the 4 years I was with Buddy, when I would come home, I was trying to figure out how to build a scene for myself, because I'm a white guy in Chicago. You don't want the tourists to see a whole white band. It's just an honest fact. Tourists that are coming there want to see the real deal, and the African American community play the blues. Doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's just it's a true fact. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to, and I hate nepotism. I can't stand nepotism. Coming from Chicago, it's one of the things I truly despise. And so I didn't want to be like playing at Legends and having developed my own sound because I wasn't going to be sitting there playing Mustang Sally or Sweet Home Chicago. So I found a little jam band club called Alive One and started playing there on Thursday nights when I was home from Buddy from 2000 to 2004, and it allowed me to be me. It allowed me to develop my own sound. Since I had that solo career kind of start from that scene when I left Buddy's band, I just started hitting the road, doing what guys do, earning it, you know. Even if I had been doing it with Buddy for all those years, I just felt like it was right for me to start over again, and I did. And then, you know, that was going good. I got divorced, and I didn't know what to do. So I took a break from the road completely and didn't travel for almost 3 years. I stayed home. I made the Double Dare record. I started working with somebody who said they were a manager, who she really wasn't. She just really cost me a lot of money legally and illegally that she stole. But with that being said, when she was trying to get my career back up and going, you know, she had put me in touch with a friend of hers who, hey, why don't you do a showcase in New York City? Because New York City, you know, that's the biggest city in the world. And if we can get Relics Magazine will be there and some labels will be there and we'll get some booking agents there. We'll get your career jump-started again, you know. Okay. So me and the guys from Chicago leave, and we travel in a snowstorm from like 1 a.m. when we left Chicago all the way to Manhattan. And I thought about turning around a couple times because it was just a really rough storm. But we got there, and, you know, I will say Manhattan is beautiful when it's covered in snow and nobody's out. And we go to this show where there's supposed to be all these industry people there, and there's 3 people there.
Oh, no.
And including even the person that put the show together didn't show up. So, you know, we're professionals. It was me, Carlton Armstrong, great bass player, Paige Murray, another great drummer. And we just went out and rocked the hell out of the place. We get done, and this one guy comes up, and he goes, man, I took the train in here from Rochester, so I got to get out of here because it's getting late, and I don't want to get stuck in the city. He goes, but I'm a huge fan. I've been listening to you on Sirius XM for years. Can't believe I finally got a chance to see you. And he goes, I'm going to build you a slide guitar. And, you know, when you travel and you're a musician, there's lots of things people tell you. And you take it with a grain of salt, you know. Women say they want to have your babies. You know they're not having your babies. But you're going to at least make them happy as they walk away that night, you know. And I got a guitar for you. It's something else that I've heard for years. So I just kind of was like, all right, well, you saying 2 people from New York came to see me tonight? Okay, but thank you for making that trip, and, you know, I appreciate you. And then, like, literally a couple months later, he sent me this thing.
Aww.
And he did his research. Like, he knew, like, I did a bunch of songs in open G. And he was on this whole thing of, I want to make you a 5-string open G like Keith Richards. But he didn't tell me that till he'd already made it. So he sends me this, and I'm like, where's the 6th string? And he goes, oh, you're going to like this better. And I'm like, that's rich. You're telling me what I'm going to like better, you know? Okay. But you know what? He was right.
Oh.
When you play an open G and a 6th string, you tune the low E string down to a D to be your 5th in your chord. Your 1, your 3, and your 5 make up a chord, for instance.
Interesting.
So you take that down. But now, by taking that string off, Keith Richards came up with that idea, and he was able to play type licks where he could pound without having to mute that low string. So in his brilliance of saying, I'm going to make you a 5-string, like for the first couple of weeks I was fishing around. Now you put me on a 6-string and I don't look as good because I'm used to this 5-string now and know that I've got the low down here and I don't have to mute that string anymore. And I'm kind of glad that I listened to him and he just kind of did what he wanted to. Besides being really cool for blues, you know, obviously you can hear that. You know, I'm a huge Ry Cooder fan. I think that's one of the underrated slide players of the last 40 years. And Ry Cooder was either in, you know, he would solo in open E or open D tunings because he liked having the 5th tuned perfectly. But he'd play a lot of rhythm stuff in open G with a capo at open A, you know, that Sister Morphine was something that he was, really good at. But it also got me thinking, like, there's a lot of rock songs that you can have some fun with this too, like. Keep on pushing, baby, like I've never known before. Crazy child, I just wanna see you on the floor. You're a superstitious woman, a superstitious man. So take me down slow and easy. Make love to me slow and easy. I know this hard luck and trouble is coming my way. Rock me till I'm back to the bone. Rock me till I'm back to the bone, yeah. So that's why I like this thing too. It allows me to kind of take that blues I love so much and the rock music that I first grew up on and kind of find a little middle ground for it,
Well, you do amazing stuff with that, Frank, and it's got an incredible vibe.
Yeah.
We've really enjoyed spending the time with you. I was wondering if you could play one more for us before we go.
Yeah, I'll play a little something off the door for you. This is something off the Double Dare record. I'm going to give y'all a little advice out there that are songwriters. Everything I write is real. Like, even if I come up with something that's a little fictional, it's based off something that I experienced or people I know that I experienced. And, being a musician for almost 25, 30 years now, it gives you the full range of people, from very popular and hard to find people, let you into their world, to the common man and everything in between, And my advice is, if you write a song and your girl goes, "Did you write that about me?" with a big smile on your face, you tell her, absolutely, because that's probably the truth anyway. But if you also write a song and she's Latin and she gives you that side turn, like, "Is that about me?" You go, "No, baby, that song is not about you." I'll leave y'all with that tip. Yeah, my baby knocking on my door. Yeah, my baby needs to know the score. Not the kind of gal you can ignore. If I got five, she want more. Yeah. Down in the valley, yeah, way down below. Down in the valley, yeah, that's all she knows. Yeah, she's hanging around my door. Always hanging around my door. Baby's hanging around my door. Always hanging around, yeah, hanging around my door. She need 'em all. Knocking on my door. Knocking on my door, yeah. Knocking on my door. Yeah, my baby loving right on time. You know that little girl, she rock me out my mind. Not the kind of gal you can't deny. If I got 6, she want 9, yeah. Down in the valley, Down in the valley, yeah, that's so slow. He's hanging around, yeah, hanging around my door. Always hanging around, yeah, hanging around my door. Baby's hanging around my door. Always hanging around, yeah, hanging around my door. Sweet little mom, she's knocking on my door. Knocking on my door, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's knocking on my door. She's hanging around my door. Always hanging around, yeah, hanging around my door. Baby's hanging around my door. Always hanging around, yeah, hanging around my door. Sweet little mom, knocking on my door. Knocking on my door, yeah, yeah, yeah. Knocking on my door.
Hey, Frank Bang, thank you for joining us from Fort Myers today with some history and a lot of great music that I know has made a real difference for everyone who's watching. Can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Audrey. Jess, thank you for all you do for all these years, man. You know, I love talking to you when we get away just to have some private conversations, and thank you for that. And also, Audrey, thank you for making the time to get all these artists out, because I've been watching y'all's broadcast. It's been cool.
Thank you.
And just a little shout out and love to everybody I miss, because there's a lot of you out there that I miss right now, whether it's Chicago or North Carolina or Kentucky or California. Like, I had a lot of plans to travel this year, and I miss every single one of you. So hopefully see y'all soon.
Well, we can't wait to see you next in person, Frank. Thank you for sharing this with us today.
You're very.
Love you. Take care of yourself.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Thank
Appreciate
you, Frank. It means a lot that you came to talk to us.
Thank you, Blues Radio International. Y'all take care.
Aw,
Take
thank
care.
you, Frank Bang. Bye.
Bye.
See y'all later.
Later.